This is a car we built back in 22, I believe it was. This is a 2014 Challenger M6. One of the first cars this gentleman brought to us. Someone else had put the supercharger on it, and it was poorly done, and it ran like crap. So he brought it to me. We sorted everything out, got it running really good, tuned it. He ran it like that for a couple years, and we did a bunch of his other cars. Z06, a ZL1, a
Another
Camaro
Challenger.
SS. We did his twin turbo Challenger. That's a 2019 Challenger, brand new. We put a twin turbo and a big.
It's a 427.
426. So fully forged 426 with Hellion twin turbos. And one of the things, he loves driving this car, but one of the things that was bugging him about it was that when the boost comes in, you get that little snap of power because of the way the throttle works in conjunction with the bypass valve. Makes the bypass valve too jumpy. And Edelbrock even puts a return spring on it to try to slow it down a little bit. It's actually a spring. That's what this little lever is right here with the hole in it.
Oh.
So right there, and they had a spring back to here on the electrical, or on the vacuum pod that was in there. So, in 22, whether this stuff was available or not, we don't know, but we'll just assume that it wasn't available back then. So these new products that we brought in the ProFlex Commander, and we brought in the SmoothBoost. And the SmoothBoost is essentially a servo motor that is mapped out to the gas pedal, and then there's a dial where you could set it for less boost or more boost, or you could do what you want as far as turning it up and down. You can't make it higher than the supercharger's pulley for, but you can make it lower. So if you got some bad gas, or you want to let somebody else drive the car, a couple different scenarios, you could just turn the knob all the way down, and it'll have like stock power.
Yeah, like I said, they advertise it takes up to 80% of the boost that the supercharger is capable of making out of it, all the way down.
Yeah, so you get this thing, it's about 627 horsepower, and you could probably drop it back to 400. So this was a 5.7 car. This currently has our in-house built 397 Forge internal V8 with our cam package and the Edelbrock supercharger. We went to a smaller pulley. It has a JMS voltage booster on it. It's got ID 1050s. It's got a couple upgrades to the fuel lines that we did. There was no crossover here, so we put a crossover in the front. And we added the flex fuel sensor right here. So the flex fuel sensor is in a nice location. For those of you who don't know, the Advanced Fuel Dynamics introduces a flex fuel sensor on cars that are incapable of doing it via the ECM, like Chrysler and Ford. Well, Ford has a virtual ethanol content, but if you want to add a flex fuel sensor so you can quickly switch back and forth with the fuel, Advanced Fuel Dynamics ties into the injectors, and essentially it just adds to the pulse width of the injector based on the ethanol content. So as you go up in ethanol content, it'll extend your injection opening time to compensate for the fuel, and then the air-fuel ratios remain very, very close to commanded, unless you get into a situation like we're in now. So this has an upgraded drop-in single pump in the tank with a JMS voltage booster, but we're starting to reach the limits of what the pump can supply. We're on E66 right now. We're kind of okay, but we're not. You could see the differences in the fuel pressure. So the pink lines are the fuel pressure. Maybe we'll make those a different color, just so we could see them a little bit better. Maybe not dark green, not dark blue.
Light blue
orange.
or orange.
Okay, and then we'll apply it. And okay.
And you can
Makes
also,
it a little easier
if you
to
want,
see
you can
it.
click up here and get the rest of the stuff out of the way too.
Yeah. So we're getting. And boom, boom, boom. So obviously manifold pressure is the green line, and that hasn't changed at all. But as we went up in ethanol content, the fuel pressure. Let me get the manifold pressure out of here too. It'll scale it a little bit better, I think.
There we go.
So you can see as we went up in ethanol content. So on pump gas, we had 50 pounds of fuel pressure. And then we went to about E50-ish, and it dropped to 48. We went to E66, and now it's at 47. So I'm starting to get concerned about the fuel pressure. The air-fuel ratio is still okay. We still got plenty of injector in it. Just the injector opening times are starting to get stretched out because of the low fuel pressure. So, really excited the way this thing drives now. To having that, not getting that instant boost pressure,
that hitch
that hits really hard. So you'd go into the throttle and you'd be in vacuum. You get down to, as soon as you get down to atmospheric pressure in the blower, the bypass would slam shut, and you'd get this wicked surge of power, and the tires would break loose, and yeah. So it's it's no fun, and the better the tune-up as far as like what the engine wants for ignition timing and stuff, the more aggressive that became. I actually backed timing out of it to soften that up, but the SmoothBoost will bring that in based on where your throttle position is, rather than as soon as it crosses over that map threshold, where the pressure changes behind the throttle body. So your throttle body, your engine's pulling air, and when the blade's closed, you have high vacuum, and as you open the blade, that vacuum drops and it heads toward atmospheric pressure. And once it crosses over to the atmospheric pressure, the bypass slams shut, and you get an instant surge of boost because the blower's already turning, 3,000, whatever the engine RPM is times the pulley ratio. The blower could be spinning 9,000 RPM when that bypass shuts, and it just slams a bunch of air into the motor, and you get this wicked surge of power, and sometimes even a hiccup, because we're working with an ECM that was set up for a naturally aspirated engine. We've converted it to run a supercharger, but there's still stuff in the background. It doesn't use throttle inlet pressure, which is needed to give you that smooth throttle transition. So it's something we're adding to the Gen 6 Camaros now. We're able to add a throttle inlet pressure sensor to the ECM and then turn on the switches in it, which is really cool. And that we got to give special thanks to PCMs in North Carolina for coming up with that. So we carry those harnesses in stock, and any 6th gen Camaro that has a positive displacement supercharger can now add a throttle inlet pressure sensor to the ECM, turn the switches on, and then you'll get really clean throttle transitions from when it switches over into boost, and it won't slam the bypass valve shut. So it's good stuff. A lot of new stuff coming up all the time, and we're trying to stay on top of it. And again, we're chasing drivability, clean emissions, good throttle response, great cold starts, warm up, no hesitations. When that bypass slams shut, it almost feels like a big hesitation, so we're always after all the drivability. Pay attention to the details, the big stuff will fall into place. The wide open throttle is the easiest part of the tuning. The hardest part is idle control and everything in between it. So it overlays pretty good, So what we did is we turned the SmoothBoost down 50% on the dial and made a pull, and we have two back-to-back pulls, one with the dial on 100% and one with the dial on 50%, and it chopped about 80 horsepower out of it.
Yeah.
So
it works.
Yeah. It
impressively.
Works.
Yeah.
627 to 544, we'll call it 80 horsepower, and it took out you know, 500, 100 foot-pounds of
100
torque.
foot-pounds, yeah.
Took 100 foot-pounds of torque out of it, and the manifold pressure went from 9 to 6, so took about 3 pounds of boost out of it. And we're going to do another hit with the dial turned all the way down, and then we'll put that up here on the graph for you.
Oh yeah, that'll be cool.
Be right back. Turn it all the way down. Ain't that cool?
That was an eardrum busting 2.5 pounds of boost.
It took a long time to make that pull too. Well, that chopped the nuts off it, didn't it?
Look at that.
What did it make? 400 horsepower? Yeah, 403 horsepower. And 369 pounds, 370 pounds of torque. Wow. Anyway, we're excited about this. SmoothBoost, good job. And Advanced Fuel Dynamics, good job. You know, so we like these products. We're gonna add them to more and more vehicles as time goes on. And if you have any questions or comments, please post them down below. We will answer your questions. I'm sure there's got to be a ton of questions on this stuff, but it's working well. So we're excited. Have a great day.
Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned.